Do you want to talk about some of the Perkz drama?
Let's do it.
Because that was quite surprising. I don't know how to pronounce the other mid laner.
Fuck, how do you say? Wait a second. Oh, the Zwiru or whatever. It's like the problem is it looks like. First of all, I think he's even his French. But like, the problem is obviously he's got like a fucking name that sounds like Ziwu from CS, but it isn't. So
right.
I don't even know how you say that. Yeah.
So basically, if you guys,
it's Polish apparently. Okay, fair enough. Right.
If you guys have not been keeping up with this,
okay,
Zwiru, maybe it's Zwiru because he's Polish.
It could be because they often do the V instead of a W, right?
It's probably Zwiru if I had to guess. So he is currently on the Heretics Academy roster, and it was announced that Perkz was going to be benched for LEC Spring and replaced with this Zwiru guy because he got into an argument with the Team Heretics manager. So that was the leak. And then Zwiru went and made some tweets about this that then got deleted. So I guess people are speculating that perhaps he's not coming in now because there hasn't been any kind of official announcement from Heretics at this point.
You think it could be reversed as a move?
Could have been reversed. It could be a potential contract clause that Perkz has that he has to play or something like that.
I will say, if people don't know, one of the details of the story was that supposedly, this is why it's so weird, is that instead of just this being the move at the end of the split, Monty, that like, right, the split's over, you're benched Perkz, we're going to bring this other guy in. Instead of that, it was implied that like they just went through the whole period while they weren't playing in the LEC, and then they came back and did their scrims now to come for the split, and then suddenly Perkz is benched. That's what it's implied,
right.
Is why people think it's based on like an argument he must have had during this like boot camp or scrim session. So that's what people are taking from the story, if people don't know. That's why it's not just the drama of Perkz' bench, but it's like it looks like he's benched for something that's very recently happened, and presumably like an argument with someone. By the way, Striker and Adam from BDS, similar scenario based on what we heard, right? Again, you plan on using, but then something's happened in practice. I will say this, Monty, this is actually one of those rare scenarios, believe it or not, where I do know some of the behind the scenes, but the problem is, it's one of those ones where I haven't like cross-referenced everything. So all I'll say is this. I actually had heard even before this benching that within Heretics, potentially there were people who thought Perkz was a problem. Like maybe he was acting a little bit like a diva, or he was maybe, I don't know, blaming other people for his failures or something. And then basically, but at the same time, as far as I know, the move they made after the split was the only move that was going to be made. They benched Trimby, which I'll just put this out there. I heard maybe not... bench Kaiser to get Trimby. And now I've heard maybe not everyone wanted that. I'll just put that out there. That might have been an org decision. Let's just put that out there. Or maybe Perkz himself wanted it. Let's put that out there. Point is on this one, I have to give you all the options, guys. But essentially, I'm implying like it wasn't just everyone said, yes, we think Kaiser's doing bad. Yeah, let's replace him and let's definitely bring in the Trimby guys. So that already made me interested when I heard maybe not everyone's on board with this move. So what it tells you is there's issues internally in the structure. And then finally, when these things happen now, that based on what I've heard, and I did actually ask even more people about this, yes, there apparently was some sort of an issue where, put it this way, Monty, part of what's been implied here, because it hasn't been spelled out again, fans aren't going to get it. So you know when Perkz did that tweet, guys, where it said hashtag keep smiling? Now, the reason he did that is a very cheeky little tweet, because if people don't know, keep smiling is the famous like tagline of Aranea, the old jungle player who is like the GM of this team or something, guys. So basically what is implied by that Perkz tweet is I've just been benched because of Aranea. And if people don't know, it's not just the idea, it's like this coach guy. It's also implied that Aranea is involved in this somehow. Like I heard, put it this way, what if I was to frame it this way for you, Monty? What if I was to say I heard maybe Aranea pulled a Reggie and busted through the walls like the Kool-Aid man into the VOD review room, and then suddenly, like a Reggie, there might be, passionate, inflamed debate might arise. But the problem is, Monty, you know this, you can have those debates if we're coach and player or teammate, but you can't always have those conversations with your fucking boss. So I will just say this. I'd imagine, remember what I have to do here, I have to be careful where I'm going on this one. I would just say this as a conclusion. I think what I've just summarised is basically what happened. I think behind the scenes, Perkz probably acted like a little bit of a diva. If you don't know, the last few years, he basically has been able to run his teams. Understandably, he was a massive name player who's the most accomplished player in the history of European League of Legends and had enormous salary and insane pullover rosters and got everything he wanted. So look, I get it that he might have had a little, maybe it's got out of line for a moment and his head got bigger than it should be for who he is as a mid laner in 2024. And then I would imagine what happened was people tanked it because he's still the big name player. And also we all had issues, so fuck it, we'll place the Kaiser guy. No, I don't think that's the move, but I get it. I get why they did it. And then basically then he's had some sort of a blow up with his fucking GM or something's happened with higher up people. And then that's the moment where it's triggered them to go, right, well, fuck it, you bench then. Bring this other guy up. And then lastly, I will mention, people did say the Z or whatever guy is supposedly doing really well in the like ERLs, as I've heard. So it's not like it's a ridiculous replacement. So certainly an interesting one because, like I say, basically this is one of those rare cases where it sounds like there was some real shenanigans behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I do think, I mean, we mentioned that the Kaiser for Trimby was kind of weird, not because Trimby isn't or has not been a better player than Kaiser for the last couple of years, but because, first off, there were other teams that probably could have used Trimby more than this roster could have used him. Yeah, exactly. There are teams that definitely needed him more. So it was surprising that he ended up on this roster and that he couldn't get a better offer potentially elsewhere. Number two is Kaiser was actually playing pretty well himself. And certainly we know that Kaiser can be a great support player because he has been previously, and he looked like he was trending upwards. And then finally, because Perkz was the worst player on this team.
Oh, it easily was, yes.
And it's not even close.
Look, people know, in theory, I love Perkz and watch him play. I will just say, this split, he absolutely did solo lose some games. He's just terrible. The reason they lost some of the games, for real, yes.
Yeah, he was terrible. And you always gave Perkz a pass because Perkz would in some games, but in the same best of 5, he would make you the series winning play. He would, for every inch that he put in, he would also pull out something amazing from his ass and completely save the game. So you just kind of had to take some of his weird split pushing deaths with the fact that he was going to win you a game by split pushing eventually too. So, but the problem is that now it's just inting and there is no magic, right? There's no magic upside. And you expected it. Oh, well, we expected it, Thorin, when we were talking, oh yeah, these guys are veterans. It's going to come out in playoffs. And not only by the end of the winter split playoffs was Perkz playing badly, but Jankos was also playing badly, even though Jankos was pretty good over the course of LEC in 2024 so far. And Wonder was kind of bad by the end. And it looked like, to me, Thorin, when I see that, it looks like morale has just kind of collapsed within the team for whatever reason, because players who have been very consistent, and Jankos, ever since he got the boot from G2, has been arguably the best jungler in LEC since he left G2. Now, you might argue that Yike is currently better, but if you average their performance over the entire time, I think Jankos has been the best LEC jungler. I mean, obviously when he was in G2 as well, but my point is that he got kicked out, and he still was performing extremely well. In fact, last year, look at his solo laners, and he was still engineering miracles at times. He has been remarkably consistent over the course of his career. And so is Perkz, for what it's worth. And I was willing to defend Perkz, and I did defend Perkz quite extensively, because there were actual parts of last year where he was playing pretty well, and people didn't admit that, right? But this year has been fucking bad, and there's not really another way to frame it at this point in time. So it's weird that Kaiser gets the boot. They put Trimby in, and then is Perkz playing? Is Perkz not playing? There haven't been any announcements made from Heretics yet. There's obviously internal drama to the team, and maybe the threat of putting in this other mid laner has caused it was just a threat, and it was used to cause Perkz to fall back in line. or maybe, whatever disruption was coming from the top has been handled by Peter Dunn and the rest of the coaching staff. But it is a very strange circumstance. However, surely now Perkz must be on the hot seat. He's not, why he was valuable before was, first off, you were paying him like $1 million a year. And second off, because he was the magnet. Now, we can say that Vitality was an extremely disappointing team over the course of the time that he was on it relative to the money they spent and the talent that they had. But he was the magnet that drew all those players there. It wasn't possible to make those rosters without him. We all know about his hot tub deals on G2. He kind of GMs your team for you in a way as well, or he makes it possible to get players that you might not normally be able to get, not only because they want to play with him, but because he himself will go out and acquire them for you legally or otherwise, right? But he doesn't have that anymore, right? He, this split, he had to take an offer that was probably the smallest contract in almost his entire career, except for maybe at the very beginning, I would assume, where he's not on a lot of money right now, and he's doing it because he wants to play back with Wonder and Jankos again, and he wants to continue his career. But he just doesn't have that much leverage anymore, especially when he's putting in these kind of performances.
By the way, I also do think fans will underestimate how key that aspect of leverage is, of knowing that your owner will use the sunken cost fallacy and think, fuck, but I've already spent $1 million on this guy. In that scenario where they know even if they bench you, they're going to be paying most of the money, that will just make them in their mind never want to bench you, which, by the way, you could imply it did almost happen here. Like I say, I've heard maybe he was part of the issues in the last split, but instead it was Kaiser that had to get the boot instead of be the whipping boy because you weren't allowed to touch Perkz. But I'll tell you what, not only do you not have the leverage of having an enormous contract, you've got a normal one, but also if you fuck with the GM and the people above you at the exec level, you are going to get bulleted. What essentially he might be finding here, Monty, is in the past years, maybe he took for granted that he didn't realize that aspect of it ain't just because you Perkz, mate. It's also because it feels stupid to have that much money on the bench, even if maybe it might have been a better move, who knows, right? But I get it. It's hard to do once you've already committed to spending a bazillion on a guy and you hope he's going to save your franchise. But no, the sad thing is I actually think this based on what I'd heard and then what he did in the survey, it seems warranted, just based on what we know so far. Can't say no more than that.
I mean, fuck what he did in terms of arguing with people. It's just the gameplay.
It was criminal too. Yeah.
It's just the gameplay. Just the gameplay on its face. Any other player would have, at least some pressure put on them by having a sub in for a few games to kind of see if that, puts the fear of God into them or something like that. But I mean, I think almost anything is a better option at this point in time, because having these performances is just going to kill the environment and mood of the team, because there isn't a way to do well in LEC when your mid laner is playing like this. And it sucks because I love Perkz and his history and his career. And he probably, he was the team captain of the greatest Western League of Legends team to ever exist. So it sucks to see it. It sucks to see him like this. It does.
And his name's just inappropriate, which I hate thematically, because his name was Perkz. So there's two angles. One, that meant there was perks to having him on the team. There was positives, there was pluses that he brought. There was extra advantages. And also Perkz, as in perky. Well, perky tits obviously are young and firm, and they've got the nice shape. His are all he sags at this point in time. He's just saggy. It's fucking over for him, At this point in time, you're just making a fool like yourself. Cover up at this point, you know what I mean? It's not for you. Maybe in the right setting, exactly where everything's comfortable from an angle with support, you could still look all right, but you're not your old prime self. You're not like Sydney Sweeney in a prime at this point in time, are you? Speaking of which, I'll give you a little cultural tangent here, Monty, because I've got to just say this, right? Which is, this is where I feel like this generation is cooked. Because Monty, you will know this. You were there 10 years ago. I used to be a big fan, do you remember, of Kate Upton? Do you remember that?
I was going to bring this up with Clear Love.
There you go. But here's what's great, right? I never, ever, at any point in time, in fact, that was the whole point about the Clear Love analogy. I always made it clear I am not delusional, though. I love the fact that, look, it was literally the selling point that she was doing. She was a swimsuit model, guys. She obviously knew she had fantastic breasts, right? Presumably natural. Like, they were some of the best. That's basically what she made her living off. But I would always say, yeah, that's obviously the big strength. I'm not then going to go, and then she's the most beautiful. She's not Helen of Troy, is she? Like, but the joke is, no one back then ever said she was, Monty. We all understood she had this one really big strength, and that was the main area that people were interested in. And beyond that, spoiler, she wasn't an amazing actress. She wasn't a singer. I don't even know what she did aside from model, right? Well, the problem now is in the modern day, the Sydney Sweeney girl, right? First of all, I've barely seen her anything on TV, but she seems like a very average actress, right? I understand, yeah, she has really nice breasts. She obviously goes out of her way to emphasize them and uses dresses that look awesome. But what I don't get is this. Dude, people actually are saying she's like the best woman in the world or something, bro. Mate, she looks like she's taken too much cold medication. What are you talking about? Like, her eyes are all droopy, like, she's like barely awake. What are you talking about? Again, why are we treating them like these are Helen of Troy? Like, it's okay to just be good in one area, guys. You don't have to be the best in every aspect. I'm not hating on them. I enjoy the one area too. I have eyes. Can I not see? But the point is, don't go too far and just make everything a 10.
Maybe they're just dazzled by what their eyes are drawn to and can't see anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Her eyes are up there, motherfucker. Exactly. Grow up, kids. Grow up, will you? Listen, we've all been there. We've all had a Kate Upton, but don't go too far with that. That's the point. You know, keep it reasonable.
I do agree. I do agree. I do agree with your take. However, I do agree with your take
because they keep making it sound like she's the most beautiful woman in the world. That's what I mean. Like, what are we talking about? The joke here is, unironically, I could go to a fucking random Hooters and I could also enjoy a similar sort of setup, boys. Like, it's not that crazy. Have you never been to fucking Home Depot? Just walk around enough, there'll be a woman there who's beautiful. Right. Like, what are you talking about? I know.
I think it's just because people have emotional connections to characters that these people play. I mean, all I'm gonna say, Thorin, is that my generation was weirdly obsessed with Emma Watson, who doesn't have any quality, as far as I can tell, to distract you.
She's actually perfectly cast. She just does look exactly like some like fucking girl next door schoolgirl who would just be like a totally normal person. No, I know what you mean, and everyone's like obsessing all weirdly about her. Like, grow up, will you? Just grow the fuck up.
I mean, like. I mean,
you're not
totally,
Harry Potter, guys.
Yeah, totally normal woman that everybody's randomly obsessed with.
It's true.
I don't see it, guys. I don't see it. No Jennifer Connelly.
Meanwhile, here's the thing, Monty. There's another one. I was thinking about this the other day because actually the other day, Monty, I rewatched that Coen Brothers film, Intolerable Cruelty. And I'll tell you one that gets to go in the Jennifer Connelly category. Catherine Zeta-Jones, motherfucker. This woman was a fucking goddess, mate. And she kept those looks for she's like 50-something now. She kept her looks for a long time, bro. Like, she was a fucking banger. She was straight fire. There you go. There's two I approve of. Prime Jennifer Connelly and prime Catherine Zeta-Jones. Take that, you Zoomers, and stick that in your pipe and smoke. You can keep your Sydney Sweeney. I'll take those primes.
I think I'd rather still have Jennifer Connelly.
Even today.
Even today.
True.
That's funny.
And also, by the way, Jennifer Connelly, also a really good actress, actually. Like, aside from everything else, she isn't just good looking. She's a fucking banger actress, too.
Yep. All right.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.